All right, grade 8. We are going to look at our new lesson, which we're working on, which has to do with sine, cosine, and tangent. Now, I got to tell you right up front, this is one that I'm less familiar with, but I'll explain it as best as I can. So sine is a term, these are all trigonometry terms. Okay, so we're going to learn them in trigonometry. So sine, basically, what we're doing is when we're looking at right triangles. Okay, so I got a right triangle. We are always looking at the hypotenuse is always going to be that long one, right? And then of course it depends on which angle you're looking at. If we're looking at this angle, this would be the adjacent, and this one would be the opposite. We talked about those concepts earlier. So that would make sense. But if we're talking about this angle here, that changes your terms around, right? Whoops, let me go back here. That changes some of your terms around. I don't know if I can get all of these letters off, no. But, so if we were to look at that, then, sorry, not that right angle, but the other angle. This angle here is what I meant. Then, of course, your hypotenuse, this would be your adjacent, and this would be your opposite. Okay, so really, when they're looking at these terms, it's how you place them. The one way is called sine, opposite leg over hypotenuse. The other way is called adjacent leg over hypotenuse. And the tangent is called the opposite leg over the adjacent. So let's just go back to what we had there. Okay, to figure out sine with knowing numbers, you can do it. But sometimes you have the angle and you want to know the number, and that is how you use sine, cosine, and tangent. So we use calculators in order to do this. But for example, if we have a right triangle, and we've already learned these numbers, we have 1, the square root of 3, and our longest side being 2, because you know that a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So 1 squared plus square root of 3 squared equals 4. We've learned that. So this works. So if I were to ask you to grab this triangle with these numbers on it and write down the sine, when we're looking at this angle over here, let me just grab a different color. This angle over here, then this one, of course, would become the adjacent, and this one would be the opposite. Okay, so if I ask you to do sine, it's fairly easy. Your sine would be 1 over the square root of 3. And you can punch that in a calculator and it'll get you a decimal number. Right? The cosine, we look at our adjacent one, which is 3, square root of 3, over the hypotenuse would be there. And then, of course, your last one is your tangent, which would be your opposite leg over your adjacent leg, which is 1 over square root of 3. So that's really how you would write that down. Now we're going to figure out one other aspect, and that is in your practice set as well. For example, if you only have two measurements, right? So let's just give you a quick example. If we have a 22-degree corner, right? We have a right angle here. We're trying to figure out how tall this tree is, right? And we have only our right angle. We know that this distance is 100 feet, right? And then, so what would we do in order to find our tree height, right? So if we look at that, we don't know what the opposite leg is, right? That's our, so we're looking at a tangent, and I'll show you why. Because we have our adjacent leg, we know is 100 feet. But we don't know what our tree height is, right? But we know if we put that together, we can punch in our calculator tangent of 22, and that'll give us a number over 1. So that's pretty easy. So I'll just show you how that works on your calculator. So we go 22, 10. Oops, I think I might have pushed the wrong buttons on here. Oh, wrong one, yes. 22, 10. And we get 0.404. So we'll use that number. Right, so we have that number there. Let's go back to our, so it equals basically 0.404, which means that's how long it would be if it were 1 unit. Okay, that's how tall this would be if it were 1 unit. If this were 1 unit, this would be 0.404, which means that we essentially, to go this direction, we have to multiply by 100. So we multiply 100, and we see that the tree is about 40.4 feet. Kind of neat how I use a T there to sneak a 40 in. All right, so let's go to your practice set. So some of this will just have to be you being used to it. So let's go practice set. A asks you, what is the opposite leg over the adjacent leg? So if we look over here, that would be a tangent. Okay. B, it says, what is your opposite leg over your hypotenuse? That would be a sine. And of course, C, it says, what is the adjacent leg over the hypotenuse? And that's a cosine. So you're going to have to learn how to use these on your calculator. We're going to go through that in a little bit. But right now, if we look at currently a triangle here, I'll draw it out as it's got it in your book. And it has it, oops, I'll straighten this line out hopefully. Straight as it should be. There you go, that looks about right. This we have B, we have A, and we have C. So we already know our numbers. If this is 60 degrees, this is 90 degrees, and this will be 30 degrees. But they don't tell you that in the book. And so D says, what is the sine of angle B? Oops, I drew angle wrong. Angle B. So we know that B is there, but we also know that these triangles have their specific numbers, right? So you always will have, it doesn't matter which kind of right triangle, those numbers are all going to be always going to be the same. This will be 1, this will be the square root of 3, this will be square root of 2. So we're looking at B, we're looking at sine, which again is opposite leg over hypotenuse, right? So if we're looking at this one, here's your adjacent, there's your opposite. So your sine for B would be the square root of 3 over, I lost it again, your hypotenuse, which is 2. And I'm writing things wrong. It must be in the afternoon that I'm doing this. Sine. So now you could actually figure that out in your calculator as well. So you go 3 square root divided by 2, and you get this number. Oh, you don't even have to go that far. But that would give you the decimal number in order to figure that out. Okay? Let's go to E. E says what is the cosine of angle B? So again, we go to cosine. What is cosine? That's adjacent over hypotenuse. Adjacent over hypotenuse. So 1 over 2. All right, and then the tangent is number F. Tangent, now going back into our memory, our tangent is opposite over adjacent. Opposite over adjacent, which would be the square root of 3 over 1. All right, so G, H, and I, you're going to use your calculator. So if you look at G, we actually have a right triangle. Okay, so they'll use right triangles. Oh, we'll try this once more. Right triangle. We got a 90 degree in the corner, but this one happens to be 40 degrees, and this is angle A. And it says, what's the sine of A? And here's where you use your calculator. So we know that A is 40 degrees. We go to our calculator. we go 40 degrees sine. And let's take the first three decimal places. So 642, we estimate it up to 3. So 0.643. H, you can try this on your calculator on your own. So we have the same thing, another one of these triangles. And this one's 33 degrees. And this is B, and it says what is a tangent? Same thing. Go to your calculator. 33 tangent, and you get 0.649. And then the last one is a little trickier. I went through it once, I'll go through it again. So we have a kite up in the sky. I'm standing here as Bob. I'm looking up. And we know that this angle here is 42 degrees, right? And the kite is way up there. So here we have our fancy kite. And it's asking us, we know this side is 100 feet, and this is the adjacent side, right? And that makes sense because this would be the opposite, right? And this would be the hypotenuse. So what we really want to find out is the opposite, right, over the adjacent, which we know that it is the kite side over 100. Well, in order to figure this out, we have to know what our tangent is. So we know that if we look at tangent, the number is going to be on the top of the fraction here. So we can do a tangent. Oh, and just wait so that you see that. We have opposite over adjacent. We're looking for the tangent. So let's go. 42 degrees tangent. And you can see we have 0.900. Right? So let's go use that number again. So in order to get here, we have to multiply by 100. So we multiply this one by 100, and we get 90. So this number is going to equal 90. So the answer is that it's 90 feet in the air. Hopefully that made sense, grade 8. Make sure you go through all of the even numbers in your course, and